How are we going to get out of all this? Like, what's going to be the path over the next, I don't know, and how long? Like, what's the path? Is the past 10 years? Is the past 2021?
Well, so again, I'm going to write something on this, and this you'll hear this first here. I think it is happening, and I could talk about this migration. There is a new world. We've just found America, and people are moving, and all the frontier guys, and you and I, we're already spending time there. So it's going to rebalance the power of the world with this new digital world, because this is a new financial system that has a better chance of working. And it may continue to work for another 50 or 100 years, who knows? So I think it ends with a whimper and not a bang. If it was going to implode, I had a serious sit down with myself, because I thought the next recession, so a few years ago, the next recession, sure, the crypto world and the macro world would collide because of debt. But what happened was we had the biggest recession any of us will ever live through, and nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow. But what did happen was asset prices accelerated because denominated in the G4 central bank balance sheets, they outperformed.
Yeah.
They were just offsetting it. So if you look at the S&P or the Euro stocks or whatever you want to do, divide it by, let's say the S&P divided by the Fed balance sheet is exactly what we have in our heads, which is after 2008, it just traded sideways. But on the chart, it did that. It's because the denominator's wrong. People were like, oh, it's going to debase the dollar. Yes, it debased the dollar and the euro and the yen and the RMB and the Aussie dollar and the South African rand at the same time. That's what people don't understand. So that is going on. The governments have three choices in central banks, which is taxation increases, which is going to happen. There is inflation, so yield curve control, try and get the economy to run hot. I don't think they're ever going to get the economy to run hot, not for a while. While meaning maybe a decade or longer. And secondly, and then thirdly, it's to try and monetize debts in different ways by debasing your currency. Okay, so all of those three things are going to force us to migrate. Every one of those forces us to migrate. So we all migrate across. But we're now backwards looking. And we're all looking at this world behind us that's crumbling. And I'm looking forwards, and I'm a big believer in the Neil Strauss's Fourth Turning, the book, which I think is, if people here haven't read it, they must read this book. It's exceptional and it's prophetic. It's incredible.
And he talks about that.
Yeah, Neil's a good guy, and he talks about that new institutions, new regulations, new frameworks, new ways of doing things come out. So if you think the last time this happened, it was after World War II, everything from the IMF to the World Bank to the WHO to the United Nations, I mean, you name it, the entire rules-based global order system came out of World War II. So now if we look ahead, I've been putting a list because I'm writing Global Macro Investor this weekend. So what we've got coming in the next 10 years is probably the biggest thing we will ever see in terms of change. We've got, after this, the vaccines, we've now got the breakthrough in genetics, really. We saw how fast this came, like 2 weeks they solved this. So we've got a biotech revolution that is now fully underway and is going to absorb huge amounts of capital. We've got a parallel financial system being built, which is this whole digital world we talked about. We've got the digital worlds where people are living in, which is esports, gaming, VR, right? We haven't merged all of those fully yet. That's all coming. In the next 10 years, people are going to live like you and I grew up with television. We're going to be living, we won't be doing it like this. We'll be sitting together with VR headsets, talking to each other, and it'll all be different, right? We will live interoperably between the two worlds. We've also got a green revolution underway. Europe is driving that. By 2030, Europe will have reduced all emissions by 65%. When I walk down the road in the Cayman Islands, I've got an electric car here in Little Cayman and also a big diesel Land Rover. But I was walking around Cayman Islands thinking, in 10 years' time, nobody's going to manufacture any petrol or diesel cars again.
Anymore.
Ever.
Yeah.
Right? We can't get your heads around that. This is not going to be there anymore. Autonomous driving. In 10 years, it's going to be pretty standard for delivery vehicles, taxis. We've got blockchain itself for personal identification, how we might get paid for our attention, supply chains. That's all coming in the next 10 years. We've got the sharing economy of Uber and all of this stuff. You know, that's just only going to grow. World population is going to start peaking over time as well. We've seen it in Europe, we've seen it in the US, we've seen it in most of developed Asia. It'll start peaking around the world. So population pressures that have been the big issue of the world for food and resources, they're going to start dissipating over time. The rate of change is going down. Universal basic income, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, robotics, things like GPT-3, which is the natural language text that comes out of artificial intelligence, the rise of behavioral economics, 5G, 6G, global Wi-Fi that people like Tesla are building out, or Elon Musk is building out from SpaceX. Gigantic deflationary pressures of having this digital financial system that creates deflation, and the rise of technology and bringing all of the baby boomers out of the workforce. Everything is going to be driven by network effects. So everything looks exponential and not linear. We've got distributed computing coming. And then all of that is going to get applied to emerging markets because they're going to go from here to here in one step change. This is all happening in 10 years. Right?
And it's that sped up by COVID as well. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all come because of what's just happened. And it's all going at a ridiculous rate. And all of these printed dollars are going to get sucked in to investing in all of this because, I mean, literally everything is about to change. So I'm actually getting very optimistic that I think we end with a whimper and not a bang. We don't blow up. We just transition. And we transition to something. It's going to be a different world. It's going to be hard to get our heads around. It's going to have social issues. You know, if you're getting paid an income for not working, your propensity to feel worthless is pretty high. You're going to have to change structures of society. So I think a lot is changing here. So I'm pretty excited. And I think this whole digital asset space is just one part of the size of it. And it kind of all blends together.
Cool. That's exciting. Any other books besides The Fourth Turning that you would say must read?
Jeff Booth's book, The Price of Tomorrow. That's about the deflation of technology. I think that's definitely well worth reading because it captures the big picture. I think both Sapiens and Ex Deus, the two books, are definitely worth reading to just get your heads around where this is really going. Because as humans, we tend to be backward looking. And if we want to go backward looking, go back to the Renaissance. I think that's what's coming. But we're going to be operating in this weird world of these two systems, a broken system and a new system. And that sounds like there's some opportunity to invest in that.